Hope everybody out there had a great Father's Day. It was a pretty good day or good weekend in sports, I guess I should say. Steve, did you do anything important with the kiddos over the weekend?
We hit the driving range both Saturday and Sunday, so
Nice.
our kids are getting into golf now. So,
all right,
and their swings are getting better and better, which is great to see. So,
are they both righties or are they getting lefties in the group?
They're both righties, unfortunately. I didn't have any left-handed relief pitchers, which was my dream when they were young.
Yeah,
a left-handed relief pitcher can pitch for 20-some years, make a couple $1 million a year, and pitch 8 innings a year and be fine.
Man, you throw 86 and everybody else has to throw mid-90s or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they both ended up righties, so it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I've got it was kind of a double celebration for the Stroud household because it was Father's Day, of course. Valerie's, my wife's father-in-law, my father-in-law, her father is down, and he's 95 years young. I'm telling you, if you saw this guy, you'd think he was in his, I don't know, late 70s. It's just, It's mind-boggling, just mind-boggling. And so he was down, and then we went to a brunch, in the morning, and then it was my youngest daughter's birthday. She's 13, so I got 2 teenagers now, which is really, hard to imagine. These little girls have grown up. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. We went out to brunch, as I said. But yeah, I think what's cool about Father's Day, if there's a major golf tournament on, and that
the U.S. Open's always on.
Yeah, it's always on Father's Day, and so you get the good golf nap, right? Like a nice meal, a little golf nap, wake up, see the end of it, and what an ending it was. We can get into that in a minute, but yeah, so it was, it was a good weekend. So I hope everybody had a chance to enjoy their kiddos and being a dad and all that, and also celebrate your dad as well. I wish I could call mine, but yeah, it was a good weekend. But I'll tell you what, and we're going to start here. Tampa Bay is back, baby.
Oh, it's back. The way back.
All the way back. Your Tampa Bay Sun are now champions. They beat Fort Lauderdale in the first USL Women's League Championship, and they did so 1-0 in extra time. It was a sold-out Super League Championship game. They had, of course, they play at Blake High School, and fairly modest digs over there, but a great location and picturesque and
beautiful,
good attendance and all of that. So it was really cool. They beat Fort Lauderdale, as I mentioned. Denise Schulte Brown, who used to be the USF coach, is the coach of this Tampa Bay team, and so she took a leap of faith, as did a lot of these players. And for them to go out there and win the inaugural Women's League was just really cool. It was a great game, 0-0 at the end of regulation, like I said, and they get it done. But that was fun. I watched it on Peacock. My wife was there. My daughter was at the game as well. So yeah, it's it was neat to see the ladies take it, and the home crowd was into it, and it got me to thinking, man, it used to be not long ago where every team won a championship in Tampa Bay.
Well, maybe we're getting back to that.
Back.
Don't look now, but your Tampa Bay Rays are 3.5 games out of first.
Yeah.
And sitting in the first wild card spot.
Well, we can forget about the wild card because they're going to win the AL East, babe. They're going to run down the Yankees. So 3.5 back of the Yankees, right?
Yep.
In second place, they've got I think Baltimore's coming to town.
Correct. For 4 starting tonight.
Yeah. So, but where do you start? Do you start with the pitching that they got over the weekend? I mean, to go in and sweep, which was you said the team that had the best record in baseball, better than the Tigers.
They had the best record in baseball, and they had the best home record in baseball. And they had won the first 6 games of their homestand that they're on.
That's crazy. I mean, you could not have played a hotter team, right, from another league, an entirely different league.
Yep.
And to go in then, and they didn't just win. They more or less beat them up at certain points of this series.
I mean, they dominated. They how many runs did they leave on base as well? And not only did they score a ton of runs.
True.
I mean, they just kept when the Mets made an error, and they made lots. And some of them were errors, some of them were just mistakes. The Rays pounced and capitalized, and then poured it on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it was they couldn't field a bunt, whether it was a wild pitch, go over, all the things that the Mets did wrong this weekend. And the Rays made them pay, which is what good teams do. And, they're hitting really well. I mean, considering they didn't change the roster this year drastically, even though everyone thought they needed to add some bats, they really didn't add them. I mean, they new catcher and Danny Jansen and that, but
Yeah.
the improvement in hitting, and they didn't start off great this year, but the
No.
improvement in hitting is drastic, particularly with runners in scoring position. And we talked about that last week, how last year they were dead last. I mean, even the White Sox were like 7 points better than them with runners in scoring position. And they were god-awful. The Rays are top 5. I haven't looked at what the updated standings are, but, I mean, they're hitting with runners in scoring position, which is how you put crooked numbers up, which is how you win games.
Yeah. And they rolled into New York after a not-so-good finish in Boston. They lost their last 2 games in that series. Mm-hmm. But they are now a season-high 7 games over 500 at 39-32. They won for the 9th time in the last 12 games, 20 out of 29. They improved their major's best record since May 20th, which is a long time ago, mm-hmm. to 18-6. And I love this one as well. They have a plus 72 run differential.
It's the 3rd best in the American League and 6th best in baseball. I mean, only the Tigers and the Yankees in the American League are better.
Yeah.
And those are the top 2 record-wise in the American League.
Well, what's interesting about their offense, and we've talked about this a little bit in the past, they are starting to hit home runs. In fact, I think they've hit probably as many home runs as any team during this stretch. At one point, they had the most. But in addition to that, they score runs with sometimes no hits, right? They had 3 runs in the second inning. They had 1 hit that actually got to the outfield. They had 2 walks, a bunt by Jose Caballero, a ground out, a wild pitch, and a single by Jensen. And, I mean, they put so much pressure on the defense, the way they run the bases. It's rare to see them get thrown out. Not only are they taking the extra base and they're stealing bases, but they're not making a lot of outs on them. If they do, it's, outs of aggression sometimes, but not bad base running per se, where you go, what was he doing, right? Like, you can understand why these guys are trying to take the extra base, because they're good at it. And, you couple that with the sudden power now that they've had, it's really impressive. I mean, it's a tough lineup. Of course, we talked about how they lengthened it with Josh Lowe coming back and, and such. But I'll tell you what, man, it is fun to watch them battle. And the pitching at times, whether it's the starters or the bullpen, have been just dominant. I mean, Shane Baz was as good as he's been all year, against a pretty good lineup, guys like Pete Alonso. And
did you see the at-bat against Alonso? I don't remember what inning it was, but the bases were loaded.
3 singles, yeah.
Yeah, it was 4-0. The Rays were up, but the bases were loaded, and Alonso was up. He just walked Juan Soto
with a 3-1 count.
Yep, and then got Alonso and got him swinging on 3 fastballs.
Mm-hmm.
A couple other pitches in between, but 97, 97, 99.
Yeah, 99.2 for a foul tip strike 3. He just emptied the tank like way early in the game. It was impressive. It was like, here it comes. Try to hit it, big boy.
Yep.
I wish I had 98. I got to be honest with you, man. Or he threw at 99.2. He hit 100 a couple times, by the way,
he did. Yep.
In the game. If I had an arm that was touched by God, and could throw a ball 100 miles an hour, dude, there's very little else I would need to throw. I mean, very little else. Only if I got bored once in a while and just wanted to mix in something for the hell of it. But man, to be able to, I mean, I don't even know that pitchers realize, since they don't hit predominantly, how difficult it is just to try to make contact with something that's thrown that hard.
Well, particularly like Baz during that at bat with Alonso, he was pinpoint placing it.
Oh, I know.
Top corner, top outside part of the zone,
right?
Inside upper part of, like, he was hitting his spots. Like, it wasn't just throwing 97 down the middle. It was hitting his spots 97, 99.
No, it was crazy good. It was, and that's what you want to do. But even if you did throw it middle, it's not an automatic that you're going to barrel something up like that. I mean, if I just had that ability, to throw to throw 100 miles an hour, man, I'd be chucking it up there 100 every time. I'd just be, boop, here we go get it, boys. But yeah, I mean, Boz, that was one of his better starts, obviously. I mean, really up and down the starting rotation, they've been just so solid and so good. It's been something to watch. When you consider that in the beginning they were struggling at Steinbrenner, right? Um, they, they went through some really bad stretches early on, and for them to dig themselves out of this now and be that many games above 500, and the arrow is up, man. The arrow is pointing up. I mean, you've got some young guys that are ascending players, and to run down the Yankees this early in the season and be in the mix like that in the AL East, which is still, one of the tougher divisions in baseball, certainly one that spends the most money or spends a lot of the money. That's really impressive. So, credit Kevin Cash and all those guys, and for them being patient and, making the right moves, pushing the right buttons,
But, and you were talking about this earlier, the running game. And on the bases. For how many years? And we've done 2,000 episodes, and I think for many of those, anytime we talk Rays, we've talked about, God, their base running is awful. They get thrown out. Why are you running in this situation? Why are you sending a runner in this situation? But they've changed that completely.
Oh, yeah.
Like, rarely do we sit there and go, I don't know if they should have gone there. Like, I'm not saying they never get thrown out. Sometimes the other team just makes a phenomenal play. You tip your cap. But very rarely are we going, that wasn't, what are they thinking there?
It's a bad
Why are you
baseball
trying to take
play.
The base?
Don't get thrown out at third when you're already in scoring position with less than 2 out. Like all that stuff, right?
So little of that this year. And it's amazing because for years we've talked about how bad it is.
Yeah.
Or it has been.
It was reckless. I mean, it was reckless.
It was. And this year, I mean, it's been, like I said, there's a handful of times I might go, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, they'll get overly aggressive every now and then,
Sure.
but not to the point where you go, well, you just cost your team the game. You know what I mean? Because they do more right things than they do wrong on the bases. And the other thing is too is they have great speed on this team. Their overall team speed, which comes into play defensively too in the outfield and other places, it really shows up. There was a double play ball that Mangum, I think, beat out, which would have been the back end of a double play, and that wound up giving them a run, and so, yeah, but the combination, when you have speed like that, which plays well in any ballpark, and then you add the power, another 3-run homer by Junior Caminero, this guy is, I mean, not the greatest defensive player, and they'll make some moves for him late in the game for defense, which I think is fine as he gets better playing third base. But man, you talk about, if in fact he is 21 years old, as they say, no reason to doubt it. What a future! What a bright star they have in Caminero, who also brings something else, which is not just swag per se. They've had players with swag, but he brings fun to the game. Like you can see how much he loves playing baseball. And I think that's infectious especially when you're a major league team that plays every night and plays 162 games. There's energy on this team, because of its youth and because of what he brings and the joy on his face. Now it helps that you win games, but he's happy for everybody. He's the first guy out of the dugout. Like, I just like teammates like that, who genuinely love playing baseball. And that's what you need when you're dragging through the month of June and July and the dog days and all of that, because it can get really difficult. But these guys, in good teams have this, right? They have an esprit de corps. They have, good clubhouses. And that's what I think Caminero and those guys have really brought a lot of energy to that team.
No question about it. And look, the Rays have had guys like that in the past, Jose Siri and and others. But when it's one of your when it's one of your stars,
yeah, exactly.
Like Randy had swag, but it wasn't that over the top of like Caminero and Siri and and some
Yeah.
of those guys that the past have. Like
Siri just didn't produce enough, I guess.
exactly. But when Camaro's sitting there batting fourth or fifth in your lineup and crushing home runs and
Right.
leading the team some nights, like it helped. Like when it's a star player doing it, it means even more.
Yeah.
And I think it has helped energize this team. And I think, some of the younger guys that are hungry up here that weren't going to get a chance and have, like Meisner and Mangum and that. I mean, it's all helped. I mean, it's that's all part of the. It's not really necessarily the Rays' intention all the time, but when you have young guys trying to make a mark, they bring energy every night. And
that's their dream.
Rays roster, Rays roster turns over so much, but every year there's new rookies, new guys trying to just hang on, to make a mark, to show I belong.
Mm-hmm.
And that energy that can be infectious, especially when it's taught early on in the Rays system. And we see that throughout AAA, AA, and that, and much like we talked about for years, how the minor league system was winning trophies and winning
championships,
championships, and then those guys come up to the big leagues and they're used to winning championships. They know how to win championships.
Right.
Yes, it's not the big leagues, but it's all part of the process. They've played playoff games. They've been under pressure. That's why the minor leagues are important too, not just for development, but you want your team to have those scenarios, and the Rays for years have, and it's made this team what it is. And to be honest, if you thought a month or a month and a half ago this team would be right now where they're at, 7 games above 500, I'd have called you crazy.
Yeah, you could call me crazy. I would have never thought that. No way. It kind of looked like they hit a ceiling. They kind of, okay, they're not going to be very good hitting. They're not, now the pitching's starting to wear off a little bit. It's interesting, though, you mentioned like some of the new guys and some of the energy. I mean, they started the season, and within like a week or so, their top 4 outfielders were gone. I mean, the guys that thought they were going to start the season with were either on they're on the IL,
mm-hmm.
and that's how you ended up with Meisner and Mangum and those kind of guys. And so when you have people that have worked their whole life to get to the big leagues, they kind of like to stay there. So you're watching their dreams play out, and their families come to the games, and them have big moments like they had on opening day. And so, that's part of the recipe. It's part of the group, overachieving at times. And this franchise has always just been, the little train that could. I mean, they're outspent. They don't necessarily have the biggest names in baseball, but they can do a couple things, and I think they've done it this year as well as I've ever seen. And that is pitching from a starting standpoint, given depth. These guys are all going 5 and 6 innings, not out of necessity because they're just that good. And then also, just the speed and defense. The defense that this team plays with is really as good as you'll see anywhere. They don't make mistakes. They don't beat themselves. You'll see them play other teams, and you'll see balls kicked around, and that's part of the pressure they put on those other teams. But the Rays, and they work at it. Go out there before games, man. They're out there 2 and 3 hours before the game, and Cash is hitting seeds at guys in the infield, and they're coming up with now. Are they all Gold Glovers? No. Jonathan Aranda's a liability at times at first, and same thing with Junior at third. But they work at it, and they've gotten better, I think, as the year goes on. Aranda has been a great story. I mean, everybody saw his potential, and now he's playing every day. Yandy Diaz still delivers huge hits for them, whether he's playing DH or the occasional first base. Like, they just have a nice mix of guys that, and like I've always said, you go like, well, they have a good clubhouse, it's good culture. Well, culture is winning, right? If they weren't winning, we might not be saying that about them. But I think once you learn to win together and play together, and that's kind of what they're doing now. Who knows how far they can go? I mean, I think when you get in the postseason, we'll still be talking about the same things. Can they score runs? Right. I think we'll still be talking about that because you're going to go up against, frontline pitchers every single night.
Yep.
And your guys are going to have to go against the best lineups in the majors to advance in the postseason. So that's kind of a different thing. But for right now, it's pretty damn good.
It is, and it softens the blow too. Of we learned last week Shane McClanahan's kind of being shut down again, or
Right.
going to go. He's throwing a little bit, but he's going to go see another doctor about the nerve issue, and it's still not
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And then Hassan Kim had some what was it, groin tightness or hamstring tightness, I think it was. And so he's now shut down for a few days, and then once he's ready to go, he'll start another 20-day rehab.
Yeah, that was disappointing.
Right. But it softens the blow that the team is winning right now. Taylor Walls is hitting.
Walls is actually swinging a good bat. He had 3 hits the other night. Yeah.
Yeah. He's batting over 400 his last 8-9 games, whatever it is.
Right.
He, and of course his defense is stellar.
Right.
But the pitching's been outstanding, and they've been helped that there's been no injuries on the starting staff. I mean, they've had out of the 5 starters, they've had 1 start by someone outside their 5 starters. Joe Boyle who came up for a spot start. Yeah,
and Boyle is doing great work in AAA as well. So they have some depth down there if they need to tap into it.
And Ian Seymour too. We saw make his debut in Boston, and we talked about got the win in extra innings. Now he's back down in Durham, but he's a starter as well. So there is some depth there as well if and when they need it.
Right. Nah, it's been impressive. Good for them. There's nothing better than being able to turn on a Rays game at night and feel like they have a chance to beat whoever's on the TV against them. Speaking of the AL East, the Red Sox made a shocking trade, right?
Well, I don't know if it's shocking, but the timing and everything else, they traded Rafael Devers to the San Francisco Giants, and the Giants are taking his whole
it's like a 10-year, $300 million deal left.
Yeah, which is why, Boston, when the owner of the Red Sox flies to Kansas City to meet with you and ask you to do some stuff and then you don't do it, your days are numbered.
Like play a position.
Well, he asked him to take grounders in warm-ups. I don't
want to play first. I don't want to play the outfield. I just want a DH. Like, wait a minute. We need you to do these things. No, I'm good.
Yeah. So meanwhile, Boston wins 5 in a row and then trades Devers.
Yeah.
Including sweeping the Yankees, which, Boston helped out the Rays.
Boston fans lose it. The Childs are losing their minds up there, though. They just are. I mean, you're coming off a good series. And what does it say now about the NL West with the Giants, stepping in there with a guy like Devers?
Well, the Giants are, a game? I think they're 2 games behind the Dodgers now.
Right.
So I think they lost tonight. So
they're
2 games behind the Dodgers. That's an arms race in the NL West. The Padres just keep loading up and buying talent. The Dodgers, of course, have, and the Giants are. It's just that division has so much money they're pouring into those rosters. It's incredible.
A little bit of breaking news as far as the NL West goes. Shohei Ohtani will be starting for the Los Angeles Dodgers tonight against the Padres, the team announced. How about that?
Wow.
Yeah.
Shohei pitching tonight.
Can't do enough. Had 2 home runs the other day.
Yeah.
Guy's incredible, man. Him and Aaron Judge, what great players they are. I think we live in a time when people don't quite appreciate what we're, Ohtani's Babe Ruth for all intents and purposes. Hell, he's better than Babe in some instances. I don't think the Babe could throw 100, but for him to get back on the mound, a year removed or so from the Tommy John, and he still continued to hit home runs for him and lead them in every way. It's just really, really impressive. And you see what Judge does. Just that dude is just amazing.
Oh, he's down a little. He was up to 392 just like a week ago. He's down to 378 now.
Imagine a power hitter doing that, almost batting 400, right?
His OPS, I want to say his OPS is almost 200 points ahead of Ohtani, who's second.
That's just insane. He's going to win. One of those guys is going to win the MVP. I would imagine it's Judge, but
they're in separate leagues, so yeah. But
they'll both win. Yeah, their respective leagues. And it'll probably be the Dodgers and the Yankees in the World Series when it's all said and done. But that's the problem with baseball, right? Is the inequity of the no salary cap and things like that.
By the way, Aranda's 6th in batting average in baseball.
Is he really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's 4th in the AL, but 6th in baseball. He's batting 319.
Yeah. He's lethal, and he's the one guy that Cash will not feel the need to take out of the lineup against lefties. Because he's still adept at hitting those guys. So very often will slip over and bring the right hand of the lineup. I mentioned it was a good Father's Day because I got to take a golf nap, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second here. But first, I wanted to tell you guys, if you didn't get your father anything there and you want to make up for that mistake, go down to our friends at Breitling Boutique in International Plaza Mall. I'm telling you, they get the best collection of Swiss watches you will find anywhere, anytime. And that's because the Breitling company has been in business, I don't know, for over 400 years. They've been at International Plaza Mall for more than 5 years. They've got everything for your dad. Believe me, and it's not too late, because if you can get him one of the greatest timepieces he's ever owned, he'll forgive you. Trust me. You're talking about the Navatimers, the Chronomats, and they've been celebrating the NFL's 104th year anniversary with. They have 32 different teams in the NFL, all of them with special Breitling Boutique Chronomat watches. These watches represent each team. They're all individual. They have the team colors on the face of the Chronomat watch. They have the logos. And this is while supplies last. So you got to get down there soon to see what kind of inventory they still have. It's Breitling Boutique. And don't just stop there, okay? Because how about a watch for your wife or for your girlfriend, your mother? You name it. They have beautiful sports watches. These things are durable, all kinds of different colored wristbands. It is Breitling Boutique. I'm going to save you. Go down there, International Plaza Mall. Make sure you let them know that you heard about it, please, right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. So I did wake up enough to watch one of the greatest finishes in what was just a almost unplayable conditions at the U.S. Open. JJ Spaun, who began the day with 5 straight bogeys on the
it
front.
was rough.
He shot a 40 on the front 9. And then the conditions got worse after that for all the other golfers. I mean, he, didn't look like he had taken himself completely out of this tournament. And then there was a break, a weather break, probably around, I don't know, a little more than halfway through the
It was like
round.
7 or 8 holes through, something like that.
Yeah,
The
about halfway.
leaders were about 7 or 8.
And he kind of reset himself a little bit and got back to just making shot after shot after shot. But look, somebody was going to try to shoot par, maybe be lucky enough to do it. And Spaun was able to do it, but he hit the longest putt, I don't know, probably of any major in quite a while.
It was the longest putt of the weekend that anybody made.
Yeah, 64 feet on 18.
And he didn't need to make it because he needed to get there in 2 to win.
That's right.
But he hits it to go 1 under for the tournament, the only guy under par.
It was crazy. Just drama like you couldn't believe. I was kind of pulling for Adam Scott because I don't know how many more chances he'll be able to be up there on that leaderboard. And he kind of imploded. And he said afterwards that, it was just so hard. I mean, they were hitting some balls off water, and they tried to help the course, but when it started raining again, it just wasn't going to hold any kind of rain after that. And so the conditions were kind of deplorable, but everybody had to play in them. And if you made shots or you could keep it in the fairway, you had a chance. And the rough was, I mean, just like any U.S. Open, it's like the ball gets lost, if you miss the greens. So it's a real punitive type course, but good story by Spaun. He was up at 3 a.m. the night before his final round. He said one of his girls, they were both there, was sick to her stomach. He was going to a CVS. Shout out CVS. I think there's an endorsement deal there somewhere. But and he's a guy too. And this is the thing about golf, and one of the reasons I don't play it, in addition to the fact that I have zero time because I'm always doing the sports podcast, is that the mental drain of that game is second to none that I've ever attempted. And I've tried to play a lot of sports, but mentally to be at that level, and know you're really, really good, and yet you still can't get over the hump. And Spaun was one of these guys that beat himself up, like, was just hard on himself, as many golfers are, or professional athletes are for that matter. But he had many people telling him, you got to give yourself a break here. But, for him to pull that off and win a major championship in the way he did with that putt, man, it's going to be one of the greatest iconic moments in pro golf, certainly in the U.S. Open.
No question about it. He even said at the break he changed his outfit, or his shirt and pants and
Yeah.
all that. So it was a fresh start. So it was like I wanted nothing to do with the first
That's right.
my first
Burn him.
7, 8, 9 holes, whatever it was that he was awful in.
Yeah.
And it was just changing a mindset. And that happened once before where they had a tournament where a rain delay happened, and then they came out and the mindset was different. And
Right.
and so he pulled from that when he was actually thankful when the weather delay came. He was like, all right, I can get a chance to reset now. And sure he did.
Oh yeah. No, he was terrific. That was good stuff. It was good television for sure. And finally, speaking of Father's Day, since we started there, pretty good little story slash gesture that happened last week, and with Father's Day being on Sunday, I wrote about it. Chris Godwin, who is really one of the real special players the Bucs have ever had, not just because he's their second all-time leading receiver, because he's just that guy, right? And we've talked about it pound for pound. I think he's the toughest Buccaneer on the team with what he's gone through physically, with the kind of combat catches he makes and the punishment he's taken from the time he got in the league out of Penn State, all of that, right? And he's trying to come back off this, dislocated ankle and leg fracture and all of that. And I had talked to him. Well, I had a story, in the Tampa Bay Times on the very day that he got hurt against the Ravens, and I feel like I jinxed him because he was talking about how he really felt like himself again. He was leading the NFL with 50 catches. He had 5 touchdowns. It had been about 2 years removed from his, 3 torn knee ligaments and all of that. He's back in the slot, playing well, and then, boom, he gets hurt against the Ravens, and he's out for the year. But in it, he talked about a couple things. One, having a new son, who at the time was very young, and his name was Ace, and then having lost his father, just about all within the same year. His father's name was Rod, or is Rod Christopher Godwin Sr., and he died of cancer, and this would have been January of 2024. And so, for Father's Day was tough for him last year, obviously, but this Father's Day, now that he's celebrating, the birth of his son Ace, he said it kind of came full circle. So, along those lines, he has decided, and this is a small gesture, but kind of a big meaning. He has decided to, on the back of his jersey, change his name to Godwin Jr., because he is named after his father. And a lot of times he said you play for the name on the front of the jersey. I also play for the name that's printed on the back. That's why I've chosen to add Junior in my name in honor of the man who gave so unselfishly of himself to others and helped mold me who I am today. His dad went to every game. I don't know that he coached him. I know he would say he can remember from the time he was 6 years old, his dad would be running up down the sideline screaming, half man, half monster, the manster, right? That Godwin. And he is that. But kind of a cool Father's Day, snippet. When you think about your dads, those of us who have lost ours, and what an impact that they have had in our lives and our sporting lives and all of that. Just really cool for Chris Godwin. It's just, the more you hear or around Chris Godwin, the better I feel about him. I don't know why. He's just that dude,
Mm-hmm. No question about
He
it. And
really is.
that's one of the reasons the Bucs brought Chris Godwin back, and they like him so much. It's one of the reasons they drafted Emeka Egbuka. They feel kind of the same way, and he exhibits a lot of not just
so
on the
much
field,
like him,
but off the field, the same traits.
Yeah, so much like him. It's funny. Of course, we talk about it all the time, but the national media is really waking up to the fact that the Bucs have a really good receiver class here and a pretty damn good offense last year. And now you add Abuka to it. You add some of these new guys that they have, Tez Johnson and some others, and all of a sudden, with the whole offensive line coming back, with the running back situation that they have, people are pretty high on the Bucs in terms of their offensive potential here. Now it's just that you got to put it together, and I think they have to go to a different level in terms of not beating themselves. They had a lot of mistakes at critical moments last year that were self-inflicted. We saw that in the playoff game. I still say they were better than Washington, but then on that day they couldn't get the defense off the field. But more importantly, they had a one huge turnover after they'd had a goal line stand, and the jet sweep and the fumble, and then that led to a touchdown. And then when they were on the goal line themselves, Graham Barton mishandled a line call and snapped the ball too soon, and that resulted in them on settling for a field goal that they really needed a touchdown there, could have put the game away. So if they can eliminate those kinds of mistakes, and of course this is all based on the fact that you've got to stay relatively healthy. I don't disagree with Mike Evans, who has said that he thinks this is the best receiving core that he's ever played on with the Bucs, and that's saying something since he came to the team in 2014. And so I'll keep saying it until he proves me wrong. You're going to love Emeka Ibuka. You're going to love everything about him. And he does not look like a rookie. He is a guy who is a polished route runner, knows how to get open, already has a little bit of synergy with Baker Mayfield, a lot actually, and can play any position, which is very hard to do when you come to the National Football League. So I do look for these guys to be pretty explosive offensively. Again, got to stay healthy, all those things. Teams will, you got a new offensive coordinator with Josh Grizzard. He's got a learning curve. So there might be some early bumps in the road, although the last 2 years they started out 3-1 and then kind of hit a skid both seasons. They got to avoid that sort of spiraling downward after a fast start. But it's guys like Godwin, and you can't, any team, whether you're talking about baseball, football, you name it, but to have the character guys who can play. It's not just the fact that that they're just great guys. There's a lot of great guys, right? But when your best players are also sort of your best teammates, I think that's and unselfish at a position where everybody's selfish, right? Somebody's got to throw you the ball. I think that's what kind of sets the tone. That's why you don't have a problem between Rashad and Bucky Irving, right? That's why guys pull for each other, and it's genuine. It's not something that's just sort of fake. But I think this is going to be one of those years where, again, everything's potentially, but it could be one of those years where you look back and you go, that was really a talented football team. Like, those guys are as advertised, and they're gonna have to live up to it, because the last few years they're the team that everybody was overlooking, right? New Orleans is better. The Falcons are going to beat them, and the Falcons did beat them twice last year, so don't forget that. And that was with Kirk Cousins, who's no longer the starter. But now they have to sort of own up and kind of live up to what is suddenly a lot of people understanding that this is a good football team. And in the NFC, at least, they could be better than the 49ers. They could be better than Detroit. It may come down to them in Philadelphia, and they've beaten Philadelphia the last few years. And they beat Washington in the opener, although Washington was much better at the end of the season. Are they better than the Commanders? And, that NFC to me is still kind of wide open. There's still a lot of room, and we'll see what Green Bay does, and if Minnesota can do it with a young quarterback now. But I kind of like their chances, and it's way too early to make any predictions. But it's guys like Godwin in that story, which I just thought was kind of cool. At a time in his life where he's thinking about his dad, and that was neat. I also went to Baker Mayfield's football camp. Big turnout there. I think he had over 300 kids. Shouted out to the Glazers for giving them the indoor facility, which was much appreciated for anybody that attended, especially the parents, because they weren't out in the baking sun, even though it was late in the afternoon. But, look, their business is right, but pretty cool of Baker to do that camp. And also he's going to do one in, I think, in Oklahoma as well this summer. So, before you know it, man, we've been saying it. They'll be back out there on the grass, and we'll be roasting like crazy. But then it's going to be go time. I was looking at some flights already, Steve, for their preseason trip to the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they're going to have a joint practice, controlled scrimmage, if you will, on Thursday before they play them again on Saturday, and Friday will be kind of a walk-through practice by themselves. So I'm looking forward to that. Aaron Rodgers will be there. That'll be cool. I remember they went when Aaron Rodgers got to the Jets the first year. They were up in New York, and they were having a joint practice with the Jets. They did it one day, and then the Jets called it off the next day. It was like, what? What do you mean? We came up here really early for two practices, and now you quit after one? And the Bucs wound up going to the Giants practice facility outside of MetLife Stadium, and the Giants did not practice against them, but they allowed them to have a practice field so that they could at least do a walkthrough and go against each other. So those things are kind of fun, but yeah, that's a trip, man. It's that one is the second week of August. Of course, they kick off against the Titans in the first preseason game, and I think the Titans are going to scrimmage them here at home. They released the training camp dates, and there's 3 of them out of about 9, I believe, 9 or 10 that are open to the public, which is one more than they had last year. That's one of my pet peeves. I understand it's business, and I understand that the other days they try to reward season pass holders and suite holders, and the people that obviously are paying the bills. They'll have a military night or day, practice, which is cool. The relationship with McDill and others, but I just wish that more people could come and that can't afford a game or have a bunch of kids that don't have an opportunity to to see these guys up close. I wish they'd have more open dates, but they do have 3. So if you're making any plans, check those out. All right, so busy weekend sports. We'll have plenty of content for you on this podcast to choose from. The Rays will begin their series against the Baltimore Orioles at home, Steinbrenner Field, see if they can keep it going as they are playing really good baseball right now. Also, get your mailbag questions in. You can do that at any time. Send it to us on Twitter or X at SportsDayTB. You can reach me at NFL Stroud. My email address is rstroud@tampabay.com. And a little treat later in the week, I had a chance to sit down with Bucs general manager Jason Licht. We'll probably bring that to you in a couple parts. Talked a lot about the 50th anniversary coming up this year. Unbelievable, a big one. And you're going to see a lot of stuff kind of coming to the fore for that. And as well as, just about where they're at as a team. And, the reason for drafting Emeka Ibuka and some of the things they have learned through the years with respect to building this club and just how big they think this window is that they have to win a Super Bowl. So interesting stuff from Jason Licht we'll have later in the week. You want to stay on board for that. And also go see our friends at Breitling Boutique, please. International Plaza Mall. I'm telling you, go get the best timepiece you've ever owned. The Chronomount watches. They have women's watches as well. They have the NFL watches, all 32 teams. Wow. Supplies last. It's Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. Make sure you let them know that you heard about it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Thanks for listening. For Steve Versnick, I am Rick Stroud, Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.